You.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Happy Monday.
Yes, sir.
And
Yeah.
a lot's changed since we last spoke, guys.
Ton. Wait.
Girls, they say the girls been fighting.
We almost needed an emergency.
I thought so,
broadcast.
Man. I felt like we were going that route, but it kind of happened at the same time as the Khalees episode. Shout out to everybody that tapped into that
amazing episode.
That one has gone crazy. Shout out to her and her entire team. That was dope, man. Like, it was dope doing it, and then watching the reception from it has been even more incredible. So shout out to everybody that tapped in.
Yeah.
Salute. Shout out to Blackout too, man. That was a good one.
That was last week.
For sure. It's been a great week.
Yo, shout out to Ace for being a good Samaritan.
For sure.
Shout out to Ace, man. That was a good one.
Yo, when y'all do, like, seriously, do yourselves a favor. I want y'all to go back and watch the episode and just turn like the volume off during his segment and just watch y'all facial reactions to what he said.
I was trying to keep myself composed.
Hilarious. Hilarious, man.
Yeah.
Never a dull moment in Blackout.
Hilarious.
Shout out to Ace. That was one of my favorite, personally, one of my favorite episodes.
Me too.
That was one of the best stories like that I've heard in a while. But you know what? The honesty is and the vulnerability.
I commend him. Yep.
You gotta commend him on that.
Honesty is the best policy. Well, we got
what trap you say? I could never though. But go ahead.
Come on, y'all. It's a safe space,
That's
right? It's a safe space, right?
Man, we got a jam-packed show today. We got a lot to talk about. Of course, we're gonna talk about that Investfest
for sure
lineup that dropped a few days ago. Also, we got a special guest on today.
Yeah.
Somebody that's speaking on Investfest, Dr. Paul Judge. Man, somebody
legend.
That's a legend in the
game.
That's
an absolute legend.
If you're not familiar with him, you will be familiar with him later on. But man, over $1 billion of exits.
Hold on, say it again.
Over $1 billion in exits.
Hello.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think the people that pulled up to Carnegie Hall got a little glimpse of a conversation that we had with him and got to get to know who he is a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't know, put this on your radar.
And he's a good brother too.
This is a solid, one of the most solid.
For real.
Yeah.
So, all right. So this week, Blackout, we back 10 o'clock. Never miss Blackout, man. You never know what's going to happen. Never know what's going to happen. And then, of course, EYL, that episode went so crazy. We're just going to let it run. Make sure y'all watch the Khalees episode. Yeah, we got to let it run. We'll be back. But watch that Khalees episode, man. Very, 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 very insightful conversation. Shout out to Khalees and the whole team. Ian, any announcements?
Yeah, when we neighbors in Kenya, let me get my white and red shirt. For unity. If you want to get rich from the market, go to ianinvest.com, where to get in, where to get out. Stock club prices are in Kajabi. Please look there. A stock club call will be this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central, then followed up by Blackout at 9 p.m. Central. If I made you money, please put yes in chat. Get your tickets to Investfest. Red Panda, your code is in Telegram.
Please.
It's probably the most important one given the landscape that we're in, and we're almost in World War III with MAGA. Hey, Joseph, all y'all who be Elon, hey, y'all better call.
Oh man,
this is the messiest Caucasian divorce I've ever seen.
Facts. Facts.
They said who gets JD Vance in the divorce?
Facts.
Peter Thiel.
He already had him. Yo, you're not
Blackout. We got to talk about code of conduct too. By the way, fellas, tune in. You can't overstep certain boundaries.
There's consequences. There's consequences.
Never hate the next man.
There's consequences, man.
You know that.
So some beef is everlasting. Apparently.
Okay.
Talk later. So you know how this works. This is a disclaimer. Do your own research. Our content is intended to be used and must be used for informational purposes only. It's very important to do your own analysis before making any investment decision based on your own personal circumstances. You should take independent financial advice from a professional in connection with, or independently research and verify any information that you find on the show and wish to rely upon, whether for the purpose of making an investment decision or otherwise. Continue to do the research, share the research, give credit to where you got the research. Let's build community. Let's build our brokerage accounts. Let's build wealth. Let's love, yo. Shout out to love.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. It's a lot.
I love this show, yo. You funny.
Well, Let
Love
love,
wins, right?
love will lead the way.
Mhm.
It's a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about Elon and Trump, obviously.
For sure.
And I will be leaving the country. This week, I'm going for some investigative journalism.
Please.
Okay.
Undisclosed location. You will
Please.
see when I land.
Momentarily.
You'll see when I land.
Yep.
But this is for investigative journalistic purposes.
Broadcast Bilal. I love
I'll
it.
be reporting live
Out
from
the
the
country.
ground. Live from the ground.
Yep.
Blackout. You'll see it on Blackout.
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about, before we talk about the Elon Trump situation, let's talk about okay. Let's talk about actually Robinhood.
Yes.
A success story of epic proportions over the last year. Shout out to Romaine at Bloomberg.
Yeah.
But we went up there and we got to talk about Investfest and we got to talk about a variety of other things. But we were talking about the stock market, and one of the things that he was talking about was Robinhood. And Robinhood is a company that had it was tough times for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But man, they have an interesting chart, right? Like it goes up, it goes down, it goes up. Rumors of them hitting the S&P 500, and you see the crypto boom of Bitcoin going to all-time highs and has held pretty steady. And we're good friends with the Robinhood people.
Yeah. Shout out to them.
So what does this say about the future of Robinhood?
You got to give them credit. Not many times do we highlight companies that have turned things around in the face of adversity.
Yep.
I think Vlad at Robinhood and Dara at Uber probably are two of the greatest examples over the last 5 years. The low at one point was $6.85 in 2022, and to now to be at 75 pretty much and hitting a high of 77 last week. I think it just remarks to what happens when you keep your head down, you continue to make the platform better. I was really impressed with what they've done with the futures market for sure. They've made options very accessible, and I know they were demonized for a long period of time. I got a conspiracy theory about that too. Like as soon as we began to have a platform that was championed by us, that it immediately got attacked. But I think they've done a great job of just turning around the business, staying focused, staying optimistic. And every time you guys will talk to him more, but every time I've seen Vlad, certain entrepreneurs have that spark where it's like it does not matter what's going to happen. Like if a meteor comes his way, he's going to find a way to decentralize the meteor and put it on the market. He's just a hell of an entrepreneur. But in terms of the stock, that run from 32 up to 74 this year has been absolutely remarkable. You have to give him a lot of credit.
Yeah, I think this is a prime example of a company, especially a CEO, when we talk about Vlad, of leading into the criticism. And that's something that he talked about at that summit, was that the criticism was fair. And people kind of used the gamification to almost criticize it, when the gamification was what actually brought a younger retail audience into it. And so it kind of got that stigma that this isn't a serious platform for serious traders, when in fact it 100% is a serious platform for serious traders. And as more people got educated on trading derivatives, options, and futures, and the younger population, that retail population that we're talking about, began how to use that more sophisticatedly, they stayed with Robinhood.
Yeah.
And then Robinhood in turn made it a better platform to do that. I know it started just as an app, and then it turned to the desktop, and we got a chance to preview the desktop before pretty much the general population did. And you can see when the actual market, when the Dow changed and the S&P started to tick up after 2022, and options trading started to begin to pick up again, you can see that stock price has changed as well. Then they started talking about where they're going in the future in terms of, hey, that gamification is something that we didn't have to run from. Now sports betting becomes something that they're adding into it. It's like, hey, he's seeing the wave of the future and he's not running away from it. He's actually adding to it and leaning into it, because that is where the population that uses Robinhood is at. And so this is brilliant by him. And like you said, this is a conviction that he has every time he speaks, especially when we speak to him. There's just a certain belief and an unwavering belief that, we're on to the right thing. We're doing the right thing. We know who our competitors are, but we know who our audience is. And we're going to lean into our audience because that's going to push us. And the stock has performed. We said this when we were there in November, watch out for Robinhood.
For sure.
They have something. We actually tested the product. The product is incredible. This is going to make it easier for retail investors. And these are the fruits of that labor. Yeah,
and the net profit margin is 48.77%. A dramatic rise from the losses they've had prior to. It's just a great company. And I normally hate the brokerage business, but for them to have that kind of margin, a stranglehold on our generation and younger, Robinhood Gold is pretty damn good. This is a company I would not want to bet against. And we keep saying the legacy companies in the Russell 2000 and S&P 600 that are underperforming, you're going to get replaced. And this is a prime example of a company that just gradually keeps getting better. It was like Siakam, like G League MVP, most improved player, Toronto. Now it's like he may have a chance to get finals MVP if the series goes a certain way. Robinhood just gets better year over year. It's hard to deny.
Yeah, Robinhood. Okay, so let's talk about Chinese EV makers like BYD. They're gaining global market share fast. So does this spell the final death blow to American auto?
In the electronic vehicle space, maybe. We'll talk about the Trump situation later. I think Elon's only hope for Tesla is to form a partnership with maybe the second or third leading brand in that space and either buy them out or merge. If not, this breakup that they recently had is not going to bode well for the company. But China's doing incredibly well in a bunch of spaces that we should be doing well in. Once again, I don't think the autonomous vehicle network will be ready by Investfest. I would love for everybody to travel in a robo taxis in Atlanta by August 22nd, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I do think China's starting to get a lead in the EV space that we may not be able to recover. If some things don't get righted pretty soon.
I'm gonna correct your language there. They haven't started. They passed them. So just by the numbers, I don't know if final death blow is the word I'm going to use, but I will say it is a significant blow. Here are the numbers.
Sure.
BYD surpassed Tesla in Q4 of 2023 as the world's top EV seller. First blow. Next blow, Chinese brands now control 60% of the global EV battery
market.
Production.
Yep.
Right? Price advantage, BYD, right? The seal. And we were in Accra and I was with Alvin. I was like, yo, what car was it? It was actually a BYD Dolphin. Their models are 30 to 40% cheaper than their Western rivals, Tesla being the number one. So 30 to 40% cheaper. They have the battery production and they've already passed you in sales. Now, what has helped? Tariffs have helped. Right?
For sure.
Because the American market is not going to buy a Chinese vehicle when there's tariffs on top of it. That's fine, right? U.S. sales are important. You need to help your company expand. It would be great. But here's what those tariffs have done. They have now allowed them to go into other markets. And so Latin America.
For sure.
We saw it in Southeast Asia already. We talked about it last week in Africa, right? You put tariffs there.
And traction in Mexico. Yep.
You show us a more affordable and pretty much just as efficient car, if not better. You're going to lose global market space. And so this isn't even a think thing anymore. They have taken the lead in the EV space and they're going to continue to expand it. The other part of this is the supply chain. How quick are they reinventing and creating new inventory? If you look at what BYD has done, every 1 to 2 years, there's a new product. If you look at what we've done in the EV market, and I'll take Tesla, but we could use Ford as well. It's taking 3 to 4 years to put out new products.
Yeah.
If you can't keep up with that pace, I mean, it's out. You're going to fall behind, and that's what's happened. And so how do we fix it?
Can't fix it.
I don't know if you can.
Yeah, and that gross margin has been better than Tesla's for probably 2 or 3 years. Market share has increased. And I know some of you who may watch the show may think that at times I'm saying things for theatrics, but that salute hurt him brand-wise. worldwide.
Yeah.
I don't know if that salute was worth. You can spin it that Kamala also did it, and at one time Martin Luther King did. What they didn't lose $200 billion in market cap after doing it though. So I think it's best to keep your political leanings, unless you Peter Thiel, which he's in the shadows, to keep your private opinions private if you have a publicly traded company.
And I think it brings up the bigger question. I think Shadi had asked it maybe a few months ago, and he's reiterated over time that if they can make a product at 30 to 40% less, then why are your margins the way they are, right? Why are you charging $60,000 for an EV? Why are you charging $45,000 for an EV?
Yeah.
Right. So like you start to take it in the EV space, but then it could start expanding into other spaces as well.
Yeah.
And so we got to watch out for that as well.
We'll see. We'll monitor the situation, ladies and gentlemen. But I do want to take a quick break to acknowledge Investfest.
Please.
Yes.
The lineup is out.
Please do.
Ladies and gentlemen, August 22nd to August 24th. We got some names that you may be familiar with.
Sure.
Billionaire Row.
Again.
Irvin Magic Johnson. Somebody that's transcended sports, entertainment, business, franchises, sports teams, ownership. Billionaire. There's only 12 black billionaires in America. We've had
how many y'all talk to?
4.
It's a hell of a run.
So,
hell of a run.
So, man, Irvin Magic Johnson, somebody that we've actually been trying to get for years. So stars aligned. We was able to get Magic. Magic will be headlining Investfest. Magical conversation. Jack Dorsey.
Hello.
Very reclusive billionaire. So Jack Dorsey is the person that started, co-founder of Twitter. He, when you look at Square, now known as Block, Cash App falls under that umbrella. Purchased Jay-Z's company, Tidal. Bitcoin Maxi.
For sure. One of the first.
Some people have said that he may be Satoshi Nakamoto. Allegedly.
Perhaps. I'll be honest with you. I can't front. He was the first to ever wear the shirt that he knows him.
Allegedly.
I'm gonna do the Scottie Pippen. I'll talk to Satoshi.
I've never seen anybody do it before. Perhaps he knows a thing or two.
Hove's best friend. Should we say who's interviewing Jack Dorsey?
Sure.
Yeah, let's get the people that we can give them that.
Dorsey. So we've never done Market Mondays at Investfest before.
That's odd, right?
We had to wait for a moment that was up to par. This will be that moment. Market Mondays live at Investfest featuring Jack Dorsey.
Yep.
It's only right.
Yep. Block is the new. We'll see.
It's only
reparations is due.
For sure. Gotta talk to Hefe. Yep.
Multi-billionaire will be in the building. Issa Rae.
That's incredible.
Man, a legend in the game when it comes to, starting on a YouTube channel to taking over the world, taking over Hollywood, right? Like her story is absolutely legendary. Ownership, IP. You're talking about the blueprint is by me.
For sure.
That's a fact.
You want to talk about culture?
Issa Rae, legendary. Of course, we got the OG Steve Harvey coming back.
Yes.
Charlemagne the God.
Hey, shout out to the God.
Man, he built the empire over there.
Still doing it.
You're talking about Black Effect. You're talking about his book imprint. You're talking about Brilliant Idiots, The Breakfast Club, New York Times bestseller. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I think he has the most powerful voice in our culture.
I was going to say that. Too. You could say, I'll put the word arguably, but the most important voice in culture. Voice, I'm sorry.
Yeah, when the presidents, when they need to talk to somebody, they're going to sit down with Charlemagne.
Yeah, and even when we sat in some of those rooms, his name gets brought up. Even when he's not in the room, his name is getting brought up because they understand the importance of what he has to say.
2 Chainz. We're going to talk about his involvement.
True.
Atlanta. Tabitha Brown.
Legend
in the game, man. Became multi-millionaire from her phone. When you're talking about deals with corporate, when you're talking about, somebody that really monetized the actual virality of her content. Extremely smart. And then, of course, from the health standpoint, it's unbelievable. John Hope Bryant. He's been going crazy.
For sure. He's been on a
He's been
tear.
going crazy.
Shout out to John.
Right? He's having a hell of a year, but he's had a hell of a career. More
sure.
like people might just get familiar with him now because of social media, but you're talking about somebody that owns over 700 homes and has done this for over 25, 30 years. Ian Dunlap will be in the building.
Master investor himself.
Wake it up. 19 Keys, the legendary 19 Keys. Salute the Keys.
Icon.
He got some tricks up his sleeve. Pinky Cole.
Legend.
Legend living with, especially the year that she's had as far as going through everything that she's going through. I'm sure she got a lot to talk about. Fawn Weaver. People don't know about Fawn Weaver.
They better get familiar.
For sure.
They better get familiar.
Yep.
Google Fawn Weaver's net worth.
One of the most legendary entrepreneurs, one of the most incredible people.
And Black history ever.
Bro, we actually pulled up to her facilities. My gosh.
Yeah.
My gosh. If you ever in Tennessee, please make it your absolute mandatory visit to go see Fawn Weaver and what they're doing at Uncle Nearest. It is absolutely incredible.
Man, there's too many names to name it. Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, Jamal Bryant led the charge against Target.
Hey,
it's very time sensitive. It's very time sensitive that he's a part of this conversation when it comes to Investfest. Very influential. Look at Target stock.
Yeah. You just put Dollar General on watch.
My brother Steven Jackson, Stack.
Shout to Stack.
Man. A real one.
La Russell. Can't talk about independence in this game without talking about La Russell, man. Chris Sane, one of the few people online that we actually certify when it comes to stocks and investing. Good, solid dude, man.
Yeah, right.
Episode with him did crazy. Pretty V, that's family.
Yep.
Philip Mitchell. We had him on Blackout. He's going crazy this year.
Yo, can I tell you something right now? I told somebody that he was going to be there. I'll leave their name anonymous. Yo, they cried in front of me.
Philip.
Wow. They couldn't believe it. They had been listening to him for years now. They actually went to Atlanta to see him. They went to the church. When I told them, they didn't get to meet him like they wanted to when they went to the church, but I said he's going to be at Investfest, and she broke down and started crying.
Yeah, another great brother. Yep.
Man,
oh my God.
Man, it's too many people. Man, Ryan Leslie, Shaka Boss, Chris Johnson, Bitcoin Maxi.
Oh my God, gonna be
Chris Johnson will be in the
Chris, yo. Chris, my dog.
Forbes, the highest ranking Black CEO in Europe, on the continent of Europe. Check it. Google him. Paul Judge, we're going to talk to him a little. Angela Rod, Tamika Mallory, Derek Hayes, Matthew Garland, Simba, Myson, Tiffany Cross, Ray Daniels. The list goes on, man. Look, we could be doing this for 3 hours. The bottom line is that there's no place like Investfest. When you're talking about networking, when you're talking about opportunities, when you're talking about the vendor marketplace. If you have a small business and you're not in the vendor marketplace, you're doing yourself a tremendous disservice. Vendor marketplace, there's still a few booths left. This year we going crazy, man. Like, they said that we couldn't do it, so we had to do it.
I commend y'all because I know it's a year-round project. I commend y'all so much. Come get informed from the icons. Get your tickets to Investfest.
Get your tickets to Investfest. Go to investfest.com. Your tickets in the deal room has been opened. If you have a platinum VIP ticket, we are curating a deal room over the course of the weekend where we have exclusive deal flow, whether it's in Africa, whether I'm going to a place tomorrow and I'm going to be chronicling my experiences, and I'll share the plugs.
My boy met with Elon going to Mars.
It's a lot of deal flow coming in these days.
A lot of deal flow. Yep.
Blue Origin.
Platinum VIP members will be part of that deal flow room. It's a lot, man. So go to investfest.com. This is going to be a life-changing experience. And this is probably the best lineup. And outside of the lineup, the curriculum, artificial intelligence, investing, crypto. Sure. We got a bunch of stuff. Workshops
in Africa.
Yep. And it's 3 days. We start early on Friday. That's something that we started last year. We continue with. Starts on Friday. So there's no way that you can't get value out of 3 full days. Friday is just workshops. Just workshops, pure education, no celebrities. You never know.
They might be walking around. I don't know.
They're gonna be moving around.
They could be just walking
Saturday,
around.
Sunday, we drop the bombs. and I'm looking forward to it. Investfest.com, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry to make you wait so long, but we had to.
We're here now.
It was worth the wait. It was worth the wait.
Jack Dorsey. What a day.
Who are you guys most looking forward to learning from and seeing at Investfest?
I think Jack Dorsey is up there.
Sure.
I'm interested in your presentation, man. I always take the time to stop whatever I'm doing to watch what you got going on. Yeah, I got to sit down and watch it just for the theatrics of it, but then the lessons that's coming from it. I want to see what Chris has to say as well, man. Shout out to Chris. Bitcoin is a topic that everybody's talking about. We were up at Bloomberg, and that they want to know about Bitcoin, especially with retail investors, especially with this climate right now, especially with regulation. And we'll talk about Circle IPO, and it's a moment right now. So I want to hear the leaders in that. I'm excited for everybody, man. But so like I try to go from stage A to stage B. Like I'm in the vendor marketplace. I just sit down and try to hide so I could just watch these things because I'm trying to learn, man. I'm always trying to learn.
Have to.
I'm most excited about Magic Johnson, Jack Dorsey, and Issa Rae.
Yeah.
Because
that's a hell of a three.
Issa Rae is somebody that I've really been following for a long time. And man, what she's been able to accomplish is just mind-blowing. Jack Dorsey, I mean, that goes without saying as far as he started Twitter. We could just end there. Like, I don't think sometimes in life you got to have a full appreciation of what we've actually been able to accomplish. We're bringing you the guy that started Twitter.
Yep, icon.
Like, what?
Not Black Twitter.
What?
Twitter.
We're bringing you the guy that started Twitter, bro. And this is the most important event to me in Black culture. No disrespect to any other event, because it's about education. We know how to have fun. We know how to party. We know how to dance. We know how to tell jokes. I respect all of that. But the education is the only thing that's going to save us. So when we see tens of thousands of people come together for educational purposes, that's dangerous. That's the real dangerous to the power structure, right? Like, not necessarily the NBA finals, not necessarily the Super Bowl, not necessarily, hip hop award show. Those are great, entertaining, and they're I'm happy that people are making a living from it and it's helping the ecosystem of these, but that's not dangerous. Let's be honest. But who are you most excited to see?
Same, Issa Rae, because I think she's mastered that IP, and not enough people talk about that matrix. Like Chad has talked to me about this a lot. You guys have as well. If you get the IP with the investing, ooh, baby. So her, Jack, of course, and I'm really interested to see what 19 Keys has to say. I don't think Keys gets enough kudos and love on how far ahead of some of these talks that he's had. Like, we were talking about some of this stuff in AI 3 or 4 years ago, and just to see where we are now. I know people may not always see him in the light that he should be seen in, and don't get me wrong, commended, respected, but like, Keys to me is in a different stratosphere of intelligence in terms of being the future. So to me, Ray Kurzweil gets a lot of credit at Google, but to me, I think Keys is better than Ray, just on the conversations that I've had personally with him. He was talking that humanoid robotic shit 4 years ago. I was like, what? Let me go look. So kudos to my guy.
Yeah. And shout out to Issa. They just got one of them days, just got green light for a sequel. So shout out to her production team. Yeah, she wrote that movie, produced that movie.
That was a good movie.
Yeah. Wow. Shout out to SZA and Kiki.
Now we're gonna go. Get your tickets, investfest.com, ladies and gentlemen.
Please.
Now we're gonna go to the moment that everybody's been waiting for. Elon Musk versus Donald Trump. They had a major I don't even know what to call it. It's a little bit more than a spat. They had a major fallout last week, let's just say that. And it resulted in Tesla's stock dropping sharply, rebounded a little bit, but
173 billion in a day.
It was one of these things where and even over the weekend, Donald Trump, they said he had a phone call with an NBC reporter, and he said if Elon even thinks about backing Democratic politicians, he's gonna have severe consequences.
What's up?
And they said, what does that mean? He declined to comment on it. So, a lot of people are saying that this is just for show, and this is I personally don't see how this is in anybody's benefit for show, because Elon is not getting back in the good graces of people that don't like Elon because of what he did. He's not going to be in their good graces now. And the thing about it is that I think he miscalculated his hand, and I think that if the rumors are true and he does use drugs at a high level, then that
Which
would
been reporting about for 2 years. Yep.
that would make sense as far as his erratic behavior, but it's also something that would be extremely dangerous because when we were in Africa, somebody said something that was extremely insightful to us. They was like, the politicians have the most power, right? When you look at somebody like, there was a billionaire that I think he owned Chelsea football team. Was it Russian billionaire?
Oh yeah.
And he was forced to sell his team. Long story short.
Oh, the oligarch.
Yeah, this guy's worth like $10 billion, right?
Yeah.
And he owned Chelsea, which is one of the most valuable soccer teams in the world. And they were saying that, okay, imagine this. Imagine somebody worth 10 billion who owns one of the most valuable sports teams in the world has to sell his prized possession because somebody making 70,000 euros a year passes a bill in British Parliament. That puts it in perspective, though, right? Like,
sure,
these politicians have immense power, and it's only so much that you can actually disrespect them before it's going to come back to you. Elon Musk it's one thing to back a political party. He's thoroughly disrespected the Democratic Party, right? The whole entire party, like, and
while formerly being a Democrat.
And now you disrespect the most beloved Republican that we've seen since Ronald Reagan. Hate or love Trump. Trump has a beloved following of supporters.
First base. Yep.
He's not just a regular politician.
Yeah.
So you disrespect the most beloved Republican from that standpoint that we've seen since Ronald Reagan, and you disrespect the whole entire Democratic Party. But where does that leave you? They've already called for his to be deported.
Yep.
A lot of Republicans now are saying like they're happy that he did this because they couldn't stand him. They just couldn't say anything. I think he's made a lot of enemies
quickly. And
now Trump is saying that he has no benefit in, like, he doesn't need Elon anymore. He already won the election.
Yep.
Elon needs him.
Yep.
He said, like, if these government contracts get cut, that's the quickest way to save billions of dollars. If people don't know, Elon Musk has probably the highest amount of government contracts as far as amount of money that's paid out than anybody in the world. And just by him saying that, it dropped Tesla's stock by $50.
It's $50 and 173 billion in market cap in a day.
So what do we make of this Trump Elon fiasco?
Number one, I told you. Charlie, I give you credit. You was the first person I ever heard say that Elon acts like Kanye. And given the drug use,
so fact. Oh, and do remember that, yes, it's been documented that we have talked about this 6 months ago.
And endlessly. Yep. For those who think this is just a brother over the weekend was like, yo, you're doing this and you're falling for the scheme. I've talked to people in the White House and both administrations. This is not a WCW rap feud plot. I promise you that. But I told you, going into the election, given their personality types, one of the things you need to do, it's a valuable lesson. When you're looking to invest in something, especially with ChatGPT, it's a lot easier to look at the history of fallouts that a person has had with those they've done business with. Rule number 2, I really have a hard time trusting the character of someone who publicly has fallen out with their mother or father the way that Elon has. Take the wealth part aside. It says a lot to me when a person can't take care of their children or be a great child. I don't give a damn what my parents have done. I'm not ever going to publicly berate my family. So if you're willing to do that, it's easy to fall out with Trump, and Trump is a bit of the same way. Lastly, the network effect matters a lot. Elon thought he can buy his way into the White House and disrespect everyone in the office. And I'm going to, okay, if you and I get along, Troy and Rashad, but me and AB get into it every week, how long is the relationship going on? Let's just be real. Not that long. When you're getting into it with JD Vance, the Treasury Secretary, you got punched in the face in the White House. Allegedly, how, like, the Commerce Secretary you're getting into, your kid wiping boogers on a White House desk. For those you don't know, as an entrepreneur, It's not always the person at the top that you have to get along with. It's the people who work with them on a daily basis that are family to them that you must get along with as well, so you don't get your water cut off. Yes, still one of the richest men in history. But then if Trump starts to dig into that, how he got into the country and some of the back check, like notice Sachs and Calacanis, who I have respect and Calacanis love for dearly, are friends with Elon. They haven't done anything to support him after this fight. That tells you there's some shit that's off there with what Elon is doing. So this is not political gesturing or plot to get us to not see the other issues that are going on in the world. He just overplayed his hand.
He overplayed it. I mean, just the timeline of it, right? You talked about the Nazi salute. We talked about potentially the ketamine addiction.
Told you. Y'all thought that was a joke. It's like, okay, I know I'm black, so it's only a certain amount of credit I'm going to get, not to cut you off. But the things that we're reporting, we've never been sued over. Why? Because you can't get sued over truth. Like, don't take this for granted. Like, we were breaking this before the world got a hold to it. And the other part is, if you put up 288 to help me get elected and you start acting stupid, Playboy, I'm already in here. Go home, Roger. Build your little rockets. And I'm going to cut your funding off from that too.
So that right. So the erratic behavior is something that's not new. You then said that the president of the United States was in the Epstein files, which would suggest something a lot more serious. And that was just in the first 4 hours of this little dispute that turned into something far greater. What does it mean for Tesla? It's tough, right? When you talk about government contracting, you kind of allude to it that they've received more than probably much anybody. Since 2006, Tesla has received over $38 billion in various forms of government funding. A lot of it comes from the regulatory credits, right? So like when you talk about states like Nevada, you're talking about states like New York, you get incentives for buying an EV, that money gets credited. The issue is that is maybe 15 to 20% of their revenue. It's a problem. It's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem in terms of Tesla still is people aren't buying the cars like they used to. And so if you take those incentives, how thin do the profit margins now become?
I think they're already at 4.9% net profit margin. You can't afford, like, I don't know, like, what case studies most people have looked at. Being into it with a president of the United States while being an American entrepreneur does not do well on the SWOT analysis. I don't care what political leaning you have.
So now it comes back to this government piece. If you don't have their support, right? Your most important innovation is about to happen in the next 3 to 6 months, right? The robo-taxi and the fully autonomous driving vehicles, that's the biggest innovation, right? When we're talking about future valuation, this is why people have bought into Tesla stock.
And
this is why they've held on. They're waiting for these type of moments. If you don't have subsidies, if you're not getting credits for that, those profit margins get even thinner. What we talked about earlier is a bigger problem. If you don't have the United States market, who do you have?
And you can't easily walk into China. You can try and do the make Europe great again thing if you want to, but that will be short-lived. And after Sam stole that company from you. Like, how does one of the smartest people on earth in Elon get a company taken from him with the most important technology of this generation? Drug use. So
and we've been saying it like all 2025, the numbers don't make sense. Right? We watch sales go down, we watch the Cybertruck be discontinued, and still the stock moves up because of the belief that he's now going to be focused. Well, what happens when focusing is not enough? Right? Like when the numbers actually have to make sense. And if this doesn't deliver, what's the next step, right? Because if you're not going to get the government funding, you're not going to get subsidies, are you going to bring price down? What is the thing? Is AI going to be the way for you? It's murky. It's real murky. This doesn't help, right? And even with the stock ticking up, I think they lost 15% on Thursday, went up 10%. You're still down 5%. The numbers are going to have to start matching, right? And there's a big, heavy competitor that's taking over world and global dominance that you got to compete with in your space. And so there's a lot weighing on the company, especially him, over the next 3 to 6 months for sure. On what's next.
Rashad, you brought this up too, that even on Uber, it's not a premium ride anymore. Just how it's even be declassified. So
and that brings to the point of Tesla, right? Like, okay, Elon and Trump is one thing, but what is the future of Tesla and Tesla stock? So this all is because from Elon's standpoint, he's mad because he said that he thinks that it's just too much spending in the bill. What Trump is saying that Elon is mad because they took away the EV
Tax credits.
Yep. Right?
Experts, yeah.
So depending on who you're listening to, you'll get different sides of the story. But regardless of anything, Tesla has problems. And Elon doing this doesn't help the problems.
At all.
You talked about Tim Cook needing to get fired. I think you got to start calling for Elon
That's
Musk.
over with, bro. Yo.
The board, the Tesla board, somebody's got to step in because he's going to sabotage this company. And I just don't see a pathway forward. I don't see a pathway forward with this White House because I feel like Trump is a person that he remembers things and he holds grudges.
Yeah.
And if he starts to lose government contracts, he's in real trouble.
Yeah. Well, he pulled back. He said he was going to decommission the SpaceX from having missions out because they were the only ones that could send a rocket out and go. But he turned back. He said, you know what? That was a little out of line. We're not going to decommission this.
Sobered up.
He sobered. Right. So,
but the thing about it, because I was talking to somebody, and they was like, well, it's not real. Because if it is real, then Trump would take away his contracts. I'm like, well, it's not as simple as that.
Right.
Because he has a monopoly. So it's not like, you just have readily available companies that can just come in and just fill a place.
Yeah.
So even if they want to, it's not as easy. But that doesn't mean that they're not potentially making plans or going to support. There's always a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the competitor is not ready to take your spot
or if they'll make one. Yep.
I mean, you still got Blue Origin. You got a bunch of companies that they're not SpaceX.
Right.
But given enough help and enough resources, 5 years from now, they could potentially. I don't think this is something that you see the effects right now today. But like I said, the Democrats, I don't think they're going to forget the way he treated them. And I don't think the Republicans are going to forget what he did. So now you put yourself in a very tough spot politically. And you need politicians because politicians are the ones that ultimately fund these things, write the bills, write the laws, and you making enemies with the government officials is not something that's intelligent.
Yeah, and that's what and we spoke about having the main thing be the main thing, right? Like that main thing has to stay the main thing because that's what got you here, right? Yep. Yes, Neuralink is important. Yes, SpaceX is important. Tesla's what got you here, and that's what pays the bills for now, right? But if those sales start to come down, those margins get thinner, right? That $7,500 that the state used to give you for every vehicle that you would buy, especially if you're in New York, that's gone. Where do we make that up at?
And then the political hedge fund connection is not being talked about enough. Like there are a bunch of Bitcoin maxis, right? What hedge fund is a Tesla maxi? Has been for there isn't any.
Yeah. And that part you just brought up is important. This isn't a, hey, we'll wait this administration out.
No. You have enemies on both sides and in other countries.
Right? You wait this administration out, the next administration comes in, they're going to remember too.
And he already said if he funds Democrats, it's going to be severe consequences. What does that even mean?
I'm going to tell the truth about how you may not have applied the way you should to be in this country. Well, that's and how you got certain funding. Like it's a... And it's a great lesson for entrepreneurs. Never fight with a person who's willing to fight forever. Rashad, we had this conversation. What was it? Italy somewhere. You're like, hey, I don't know if you want to go down this path. He's not going to. Okay, cool.
And then the thing about it, too, is that he lacks discipline. They both lack discipline.
Yep.
But this is a perfect example of if you're an undisciplined person, it's only a matter of time before you're going to unravel. And him just saying anything on Twitter, and you could tell that he really didn't want to, because he kind of cleaned it up. He tried to clean it up.
He tried to. It was too late.
Like he was like, "Yo, you're right. We don't need to be fighting." But you've already. Sometimes in life, it's like being in a relationship. Sometimes you say things that you can't take back. Right in the heat of the moment. Sometimes you lack discipline. You might be arguing with your wife. You've said something. You went too far, and then now the next day you wake up and you like, damn, I didn't really mean it. But what you said can never be erased.
I'm gonna go to Investfest and find my next wife. Don't say that.
Truer things
Don't
have
do
been
it
said.
for real.
So I think this is going to be an interesting case study. I mean, Elon obviously is intelligent to make it this far in life, right? I'm not going to say that he's a stupid person. I just think that he might have a drug addiction and he lacks discipline. But it'll be interesting to see if how he maneuvers, because it's not just America. He's made enemies politically all over the globe.
Yeah,
in Europe, and he's chosen a side, and you got to understand, when you choose a side, there's another side. That's why most billionaires don't take active roles in politics. There's soft power behind the scenes.
Could it have been like two truths and maybe one fabrication? Do we not think he helped him win the election? Of course.
No, he definitely did. You can look at the polling data, but you also can go so far. I always said it was a mistake to be so close to Trump to make it seem like you were the president. You cannot do that.
Right. Who's leading the country? Yep. He's gonna remind you.
You can't even have the perception just because of the George W. Bush Rumsfeld kerfuffle that happened. Like, Republicans are very sensitive to that look of being a puppet for someone else.
Right. Dick Cheney's war, like things like that. Yeah, you've seen that over and over.
And it's better to be Peter Thiel.
So what's your so long story short, is Tesla a buy or a sell?
It's a buy if it gets back down to like 189.22. But that, like you said, there has to be a serious conversation about succession planning. And I was trying to think about this weekend. I can't think of one person who is guaranteeing alpha if they're CEO, because it's almost like a contagious company at this point. I was trying to wake this up 2 or 3 years ago from when I was talking to employees at Tesla here in Texas. Like, there's a lot of things that they've escaped, administrative practices, racist hiring. It's a lot of things in that company, unless you worked in a company that you don't know. But it's time for him to move to the chairman, and then they have to find a CEO.
Well, when they interviewed the board last month, 90% of them said, let's keep him. That was after the Nazi salute. That might have been right before the black eye. That was when they had the Tesla vehicles outside the White House. Yeah, 90% of the board. That's before, obviously, what happened last week. We'll see.
That's a great decision for their careers as well.
Right.
You have to be very honest. A person with that much power, you don't want to be on his enemy list.
And it also goes back to my theory that nobody is bigger than the program.
It's not true. Okay, come on, Sadiq.
All right, nobody's bigger than the program.
That's the wealthiest man on the planet.
He's the wealthiest person on the planet, right? And what did Donald Trump say? There's going to be extreme consequences if he does this. And he's there already talking about he needs to be deported, and we're going to take away government contracts.
Steve Bannon, wow.
Like, nobody.
Steve Bannon has some truth in that, though.
There's nobody bigger than the program.
Why would he? Right? Like, why would he say that?
I think for a moment he thought that he was bigger than the program.
Can we define what the program is? I just don't like the originator who said it. I'm gonna be real. I don't like him saying it for the bullshit he's done. But the lesson.
Some things can be true, even if the messenger.
True.
Is not like.
Once again, who created the program?
Powers that be. Them and they.
They did.
We'll see. But Elon, man,
and there's a negative return on how many enemies you have too. That's why, like, when we get on a lot of you podcasters for having beef and etc., you think that it's going to give you a return or more views is also going to like hint like there's a negative return of 3x of having 4 or 5 people who truly hate you that's going to go out of their way to destroy your life.
Long term, you stay with the stock. I mean, if the autonomous roadmap and the AI roadmap is clear, and I guess he kind of gets focused. Obviously, we're talking about the short term, but long term, 3, 5, 10 years.
They need a new CEO. And to be honest, even for the stock to hover at 290, this stock should be a $500 or $600 stock, given how much fanfare and love that it has.
It's the same thing. I sold Tesla, and then it went up, and then it came back down. I never supported Donald Trump for one reason: you can't do a good deal with a bad person. Remember that. You could take that for whatever you wanted to take it for, but ultimately, it's one of these universal truths that always comes through. It's a boomerang effect. You can't do a good deal with a bad person. You're trying to look at numbers. You're trying to look at statistics. You're trying to look at, is this person a good person or is this person a bad person?
Because those characteristics end up bleeding into the culture of the company. And if we look, the high at 370, 133, it hit that double top for all my technical analysis people. Got to the high 394, fell apart then. And if we're going to be honest just about the product, the car is not fucking great. If you take the Hyundai logo off some of them Tellurides and slap a Tesla on it, BYD, Mercedes, and that's the other part in the automotive industry. He's made a lot of enemies in the industry, actively with BMW, actively with, like, when you had the two racist factions fighting, BMW, Mercedes, fucking Ferrari, you have too many people aiming at you from everywhere. That's not going to go well. It's not going to go. And regardless of what people say, the car is not great. The car is not great. I keep saying it was a mistake to go from luxury to economy.
When you talk about the valuation and how it's trading, it's not going to be. It's the robotics. It's the AI. It's the autonomous vehicles. That's the roadmap. This is why it has the valuation. This is why it trades at the multiple it trades at. That's why. So if this doesn't start changing very soon, it could get muddy.
I'll give them a year and a half. They got to figure out a roadmap for Tesla.
Yeah, they said that the head of robotics actually resigned.
And then he's talking about starting his own political party. He's got delusional, man.
So that was
the plan. Went back into hiding. That's not gonna work, bro.
He's delusional. He's really making a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah, the Peter Thiel approach is much better. Invest in you quietly, and then
step back.
I'll have power from behind the scenes. Yep.
Okay. Well, with that said, we do have a guest that we'll bring on whenever he's ready. I'm not sure if he's ready yet, but we will bring our esteemed guest on.
Oh, Paul, stay ready.
When he's ready. But in the meantime, as we wait for him to come, how do you feel about Tom Lee saying that we recently hit a new bull market in April 7th, and he still holds for the S&P to hit 6,600 by the end of the year?
Shout to my investing twin. I said the same thing. That the run would be over on the negative side in less than 62 days. We're there. One thing I need you to know, that the market is permanently rigged to stay up. Going back to the nobody bigger than the program, that investing vehicle machine that runs the back half or the back engine of America, it doesn't matter regardless of political unrest or war or sanctions or political unrest. It doesn't matter. Like that machine is always going to go higher regardless of debt to GDP. The one machine that is always going to work is the American stock market. So I agree 1,000%. I think we're going to have some turbulence going into probably July or August, which would make my Investfest performance even much better. But by September, October, and towards the end of the year, I think we're going to be great. And I think even the indices have done a great job at rebalancing the companies who should not be in and taking those that are underperforming out. So I agree 1,000%.
I'm with Tom Lee. I like his optimism. I've always liked his optimism. So every time I watch him, I'm like, all right, here comes the optimistic. It's kind of like when I watch Dan Ives when he talks about technology, especially about Apple, just like the optimism and the outlook that they have. I think you're spot on. There's going to be some turmoil definitely during the summer months for this reason. Tariffs were put into place in early April. And so those numbers, those earnings, and those valuations for the companies, it didn't really take into effect till this quarter, and they won't be reported to the next one. And so what we'll start to see in July is what those effects of tariffs. We saw like preliminary stuff. So when we talk about Lululemon, what just happened to them, right? Those are just preliminary numbers. We haven't really seen a full quarter of these proposed tariffs and how they're going to affect each company. We will start to see that when the next earnings reports come out. And so there will be some slight turmoil with the, systemic turmoil. We already know what happens in late August and early September, especially when it comes to technology and how companies like to reset and some of their fiscal years end. So we will, but I think in the end, I'm with Tom, I'm with you. I believe we still hit the targets that we had for the outlook. He had it at 65, 6,600 for the S&P, which is promising. That means there's still some more upside to go.
As AI get 100% better 3 to 4 times a year, this the time you want to short the market?
Don't you do it.
Huge mistake. Huge
Don't
mistake.
you do it. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's bring our guest up, shall we? All right. So we now will have a conversation with the legend himself, Paul Judge, Dr. Paul Judge. Man, first and foremost, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
A pleasure to be here with y'all, man. Good to see you.
No, for sure. So let me give some background for people that might not be fully familiar, because Paul's one of these guys that's behind the scenes, and he is very soft-spoken, and he's like kind of stays out of the limelight. But if you know, you know. But it's important to highlight people that may not be as well known, but are doing tremendously major things, because a lot of the audience may not be in the circle to actually know, right? So when you're talking about Paul, I mean, legendary VC investor, Atlanta, Georgia, generated over $1 billion in company exits. Multiple ventures. Man, co-founder of Cybertrust, sold for $273 million. You talk about having a PhD in computer science from Georgia Tech, been recognized by Fortune, MIT, Black Enterprise. The list goes on. We actually spoke with Paul at Carnegie Hall with Robert Smith. So Paul is a very highly successful. He's one of the most successful Black people in America. Let's just
for sure.
Yeah, that's a fact.
So
we should start with that.
Yep.
It's shame on you if you didn't know who he is.
In the tech space, he invests in a lot of tech startup companies. It has a tremendous track record of really having successful companies, make it to the big leagues.
And I think one of the most important things he said with us that night is that AI is something that is new to this generation, but it's been something that we've been working on for 25 plus years. And I went home thinking to myself, wow. Wow. So there's a wealth of knowledge that comes with this gentleman. So we appreciate you being here.
Hey, man, a pleasure to be here. Great to see you guys again.
Oh, for sure. So let's talk about it. Let's start with AI, because that's the last time that when we spoke on Carnegie Hall, that was 2 years ago, and so much has happened since then in the world of AI. So you, as somebody that's been in tech for a long time, what are you seeing as far as the next wave of AI? I know Robert Smith was talking to us about personal AI agents. He felt like that was going to be like the next thing that's going to really hit big. What do you see as far as the next thing that people should be aware of in artificial intelligence?
Look, I think Robert's absolutely, right with that. When we all talked at Carnegie about it, I was mentioning, back 20 years ago, we were building that first company, Cybertrust. We were using machine learning to make a decision for a human, right? Like, what email should someone receive? Which one should go into your spam folder? And we were being predictive based on content analysis and using, supervised, unsupervised learning algorithms. And, me and my team from that company probably have dozens of patents that have been issued towards doing that, right? But fast forward, with generative AI, it can now actually create more content, as you know well, right? From the videos to the text to the social media. But now it's like the bar has changed, right? We've lived through these different trends, right? We lived through the trend of connecting computers to the internet and everything that enabled. We lived through the trend of cloud and being able to access your information remotely and everything that enabled, and then in mobile. And then this entire phase of like SaaS, like software as a service. And it's interesting. SaaS was all about, let me give you software so that you can do your job easier or better. Like, let me give you software to help you manage your workflow. Now that's not enough. I don't want software to help me manage my workflow. I want the software to do the work for me. Right. And that is this shift from AI to agentic, that the software is no longer just a matter of giving you a GUI to manage a workflow. The software can reason it can have deduction, it can actually take actions, it can send emails, it can book travel, and it's reshaping industries like we've never seen, right? The ability to get in and write the software itself, deploy the software, do the optimization test on A/B testing on what ads are performing better than others, to email the customers, call the customers, run customer support. It's allowing companies to be built faster than ever before and with fewer employees than ever before. There's this saying now that we'll soon see a company that's $1 billion company that only has one employee.
Yeah.
Right. And it sounds, it sounds unreasonable, unreachable. But you think about when Instagram was acquired, very few employees, and we're able to generate so much value per employee. And when WhatsApp was acquired, very few employees. But now we're going down that curve where we'll soon see a team of one or two build a $1 billion company. And it's creating one of the best times ever, I think, to be an entrepreneur. One of the best times ever to be an investor. Because the value creation is happening so swiftly. You can build a company from an idea and quickly have a company that's 10, 20, 50, $100 million of revenue. The last part about it is it's new to everyone, right? Everyone's learning it from scratch right now. And so in some ways, it levels the playing field, right? So in some ways, if you didn't come from technology or you didn't come from a certain education, you have the opportunity to learn it just as fast as the next person. And if you didn't necessarily learn software engineering, I did computer science, PhD, as you mentioned, but nowadays you can just describe to the system what software you want it to build, and it will build a database schema, write the code, deploy the code to the cloud for you. And so the on-ramp to go from idea to software to company as entrepreneurs is faster than ever. And so it's really exciting. It's kind of like watching the internet grow all over again for the first time.
Yeah, this is a very important time, and you brought up the education piece is where I want to kind of touch on, because yes, you did study software engineering, but the next cohort of young adults, especially that look like us, where should they be focusing? Is it in agentic? Is it in large language modeling? I know it feels like we get light years behind, or we're just catching wind to it. Is it defense AI when you see companies like Palantir? Where should this cohort of new people who graduated or are studying now, where should they be focusing in terms of AI intelligence?
I would say to focus on a problem to solve versus focusing on the technology tool, right? So find a problem that someone's willing to pay to have solved, right? But think of it as a valuable problem. It's a lesson I had to learn in grad school, right? In grad school, we were solving these very hard, difficult problems, but they were not necessarily valuable ones. They were not necessarily, you're solving a theorem that's been sitting around for 30 years, but no one necessarily wanted to pay you to solve that theorem.
Yeah.
Right? But if you go into a business and an enterprise, like, okay, what problems do you have that I can solve that will be valuable to you? And it's usually around helping a business increase revenue or decrease expenses, right? And that way you're delivering an ROI, right? You look at the work I do in technology, as you mentioned, I've been doing it for a long time, but I don't do a lot of work around consumer technology, right? It's a very big space, very important space. That's not my specialty. What I tend to understand is give me a business and let me find a problem within that business that I can write software to solve for them. And I tend to think about that across 3 layers. No matter what kind of business you are, healthcare business or a manufacturing business, there's 3 things that most businesses have in common. One is they have a layer of infrastructure, right? You have data, you have compute, you have networking, you have software, you have a layer of IT infrastructure. Then another thing that most businesses have in common is the next layer is finance, or the money, right? The money has to move. You have to pay bills, you have to get your account receivables, you have to pay payroll. And so there's a layer of finance in every business. And then lastly, you have people. And you need to care for and optimize your people. So you have training, you have upskilling, you have health tech, healthcare. And so I tend to spend my time looking at those 3 layers within a business and finding problems to solve and seeing how software is disrupting things within there. So in IT infrastructure, this shift from cloud to AI to agentic, it is uncovering lots of opportunities to go build companies, to help businesses understand that and manage that, scale that, secure that. right? Cybersecurity is an industry that's still hundreds of billions of dollars, and it's been around for 20 or 30 years, right? It is the gift that keeps giving in many ways, because every time there's a new platform, the cyber criminals will spend their days and nights trying to figure out how to break it. And so that creates lots of opportunities, to your point, for the next generation of entrepreneurs. When you look at finance, what's happening now? Open banking, the globalization's creating this need for cross-border payments. There's this need for embedded finance. There's a saying that every software company is ultimately a fintech. Every software company needs to move money around. And so embedded finance is a huge area that we spend time. And then lastly, software around the people. As AI disrupts many things, you have to decide, well, how do you deal with your workforce? How do you upskill? How do you retrain? How do you deal with health tech? I mean, we look at healthcare in this country. It's a $4 trillion industry.
Yeah.
And there's lots of inefficiencies there, right? And so there's room for improvement around healthcare. And so I tend to say, don't go focus first on the technology. Focus on going to find a problem that you can solve. Go find one customer, solve it for, and then another, and then another. And that's when you have a business. That's when you start to have repeatable, recurring revenue.
For the viewers watching tonight, given that point, how do they find a way to keep an edge in technology when it seems like AI, LLMs, and agentic is kind of taking away a lot of the advantages or skill sets that entrepreneurs used to have? And which tech stacks are you most excited about?
How to keep up? Man, to your point, it changes every week right now. You're mentioning Carnegie 2 years ago. We talked about AI, and now fast forward, it's proven to us every week and every month that as soon as, there's this saying, as soon as you say, oh, AI is good at that, but it's not good at this. And then next month, yep, it has that as well.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think it's again, not so much chasing the particular problem, or not the particular technology, but finding the problem. Look, right now, there's probably a dozen different platforms that are good enough to go build no-code software. And so you could sit and you could spend a year debating which one to use, right? Should I use Cursor? Should I use Flutterflow? You could spend a year figuring out which one is the best, and they're going to change and improve every week. And so it's just really about grabbing one and jumping in and get started on building something, and, build something that you put out in front of customers as soon as possible. And so that's one of the keys, like not stand kind of behind the closed door too long, tinkering with it without customer feedback. That customer discovery is one of the best ways to figure out if you're solving something that really matters, and like how people want to integrate it into their enterprise. And so in each one of these, there's dozens of tools, but they move so much that you can't wait, and you just have to jump in and get great at one of them. Yeah. And start building something and get it in front of customers as soon as possible.
So from an investing side, venture capital, as I said, you had over $1 billion worth of exits. And, that's the point of VCs, right? Like you take a company, you invest in a company, build the company up with the expectation that it can either go public on the stock market or it gets purchased by a larger company, right? And then everybody makes a bunch of money and then kind of rinse and repeat. So what lessons have you learned? Like what valuable lessons have you learned as far as, helping these smaller companies become larger companies and exiting down the road?
I think there's a number of things. So many of the large companies today, the tech titans, right? You all spend a lot of time, informing and educating people about, say the Magnificent Seven and others. Each one of those companies started off as a startup, right? Each one of those public companies started as a startup. And matter of fact, if you look at the Magnificent Seven, each one of them received venture capital funding before they were a publicly traded company. So someone had a chance to participate in the first round of each one of those companies.
Yeah.
Right. Apple, Meta, NVIDIA, each one of those. And so there's this saying, I guess Jeff Bezos likes of, big things start small. And so as an investor, that keeps us really curious. That keeps us up at night, kind of looking for that next entrepreneur. And so many of those companies started off with just really modest funding, right? The story goes that Google started off with a $100,000 check, Meta started off with a $500,000 check, Apple with $250K, and so it's really small beginnings. But I think it comes down to not the headline about how much funding you raise, not the headline about what your valuation is, but really how fast can you get to product market fit, right? How fast can you get to a product that someone's willing to trade you time and money for, right? Because these enterprises they're so busy, and the demand on their time to come in and deploy something into their network, integrate something into their network, you have to really find a pain point and be able to clearly communicate what your ROI is to them. And then once you do that, the next big lesson is if you want to scale, you have to build an amazing team, right? We all start with our friends and family who are around, but then how do you go build a world-class Olympic team? I'd like to say that if you're going after building a $1 billion company, it's like the Olympics. Like everybody in the world is going to come chase you after that gold medal. So the best people from every corner of the world will come and try to win that market. And so do you have the best team members? Like, do you have the best head of engineering? Do you have the best head of customer success that knows how to do forward deployed engineers? Do you have the best, in each of these areas that it takes to really build a scalable tech company? And so you start off with a simple problem with your blinders on. You start off with that customer relationship, but then you have to kind of switch your focus to actually building a scalable organization within itself. And that often ends up being the difference between, did somebody build a small startup that was cute, or did someone really build a scalable company that will be long-lived?
Yeah, so you sit in a unique position, obviously, in the VC world. When you talk about big things start small, what are the specific characteristics that you look for in founders, right? Yeah, you said some things like they got to build a big team, but there's got to be something that you see when they're talking about their company, when they have the idea. What are some of those characteristics that successful ones have in common?
They're a little bit crazy.
Tell us more.
Define that.
Yeah, no, but seriously, the archetype of a founder, typically people like to talk about product market fit. I tend to also like to think about founder market fit. Like, what's your reason that you are the person to win this particular market right now, right? So there's a timing question in that. There's a expertise question in that, but not just technical expertise. There's a question about go-to-market. Like, what advantages do you have when it's time to go get scalable customer acquisition, right? Is it relationships with resellers? Is it relationships with CIOs? Is it relationships with media platforms? Like, how are you going to scale more efficiently than the next person? And really, is this part of your life work? Startups take time, right? So the last company I co-founded, Pindrop, still privately held company. We just announced a few weeks ago, just reached $100 million of annual revenue run rate. We started that company in 2011, right? So we're 13 years in and still just getting started. Right. The company's 200 plus people. Vijay, my co-founder, he's CEO and runs the company. And, that company, you think about your life work. Are you really willing to work on this problem for a decade? And you could oftentimes sense that out with a founder. Is this just something that they thought this is a good idea? They think they can build something right quick, exit in a year or two? Mm-hmm. We're not really interested in someone that really is devoting a chapter of their life to solving this, because entrepreneurship, as you all know, has its ups and downs. Like, one week I'm killing it, the next week it's killing me, I'm killing it, it's killing me. And someone that's going to stick through it, through all the ups and downs, is key. So a little bit of that perseverance is key. Someone who has that vision of what the future looks like. Are you thinking about what the world looks like 3 to 5 years from now? Right, not just reacting to what you saw in the news this quarter, but you have an independent point of view of the world needs to look like this, and I'm going to do the things to make that become true. Because that person can also attract talent, and they can attract capital, right? Because part of it is not just the idea, not just the software, but to build that team, you have to be the type of leader that someone wants to follow and work alongside, and they want to bet their career on you. And so a little bit of that charisma, a little bit of that perseverance, that leadership, that vision, it comes across, and that's what you start to see consistently across successful entrepreneurs.
Personally, what do you think is the industry that's most ripe for disruption over the next 5 years that many people are not paying attention to?
Look, I like the really boring, unsexy industries, right? Really boring stuff.
Healthcare, insurance,
Healthcare, legal. I tend to say if you're a business owner and you at the end of the year kind of just go back and look at your bills and like where did you spend money, and then what's your customer satisfaction level with that industry, right? It starts to uncover places where there's high revenue but low customer satisfaction. Those are the industries that are begging to be disrupted, right? Industries like accounting, right? When was the last time you heard someone brag about their accountant?
never,
Right?
very rarely. Yep.
You spend a lot of dollars there. When's the last time someone said, "Oh man, my lawyers"? So there's a lot of disruption opportunity there. There's so many industries like that they're necessary components of living life and being in business, but they're antiquated, right? They've thrown a lot of humans and expensive humans at the problem, and so there's we think about companies that we've invested in. Someone looked up and realized mom and pop pharmacies were being overlooked. No one was paying attention to them, and their software was aged and antiquated. And so there's a founder that we backed who built a company called Heal Now that's building software to help mom and pop pharmacies have modern software, right? Or there's another founder that we backed that realized everyone was chasing the big banks trying to build software for them, but there's all these credit unions, and they're relatively small, but no one was building the software to modernize them. And so Michael built a company called Bank Joe, and he's providing the software for all these credit unions and small and regional banks. And so there's often these pockets where someone's running after the large enterprise, someone's maybe running after small and medium business, but the mid-market is often overlooked. Yeah. And so it's not just which vertical, but it's kind of which segment within that vertical are people not tackling right now.
So let me ask you this. As far as you obviously had a lot of successful companies, can you walk us through maybe one of your favorite deals that you invested in and then, that company grew and then later exited?
Let's see. Company invested in, it grew, and then exited. Let's see which one we touch on here. I'll start with a company called Drift, right? Drift marketing automation company, right? They use AI to help companies automate their marketing platform, right? How you write content, how you send emails, how you attract new customers. This is a company that we invested in, and then fast forward, they were acquired by Vista Equity. And so
Robert Smith's company.
Exactly. So that's one that comes to mind as you're mentioning that earlier. Another is a company called Emailage. And this is a company, talk about boring industries that people overlook. These founders realize that if you want to catch fraudsters, they have to first, those fraudsters go and make accounts. They make the account at the bank. They make the account at the cell phone company. And when they're making an account, you can maybe figure out if that account is real or not by looking at some of the information that they enter. And one of the pieces of information you have to always put in to open an account is an email address. And it's pretty free and easy to make lots of email addresses. But they've realized that the fraudsters would make email addresses that were brand new and they would look cryptic, a bunch of letters and numbers that didn't go together. And nobody was paying attention to that. But if you look at it, it's like, yeah, that can't be a real person, but nobody was paying attention to that. So they simply said, we're going to analyze the email addresses on account creation, and we're going to do data sharing across all of our customers. And we're going to say, if someone's created a new bank account, typically that should be an email address that's been around for 4 years or 5 years. We should have seen it at other places. If that email account is pretty new and we haven't seen it at other places, it's probably suspicious, right? Very simple thesis, right? And they went to market with that, and it worked, and it was able to catch fraud and catch fake accounts, and they were able to grow this company and sell it for a really strong exit. So a cybersecurity company, anti-fraud, authentication, in an industry that would have been been overlooked, right? It's not the coolest thing. You wouldn't talk about that at a cocktail party, but they were able to go create a 9-figure company by this really astute observation and building a scalable company around it. That was a company called Emailage. That was a really strong exit. And so there are a number of those along the way. And then there's companies that, some of my favorites are companies that they're still going. They're scaled and they're still privately held companies. There's, as you know well, there's been a shortage of IPOs over the last several years. So there's this liquidity crunch. And so companies are having to stay private longer. They're having to really kind of have a closer eye towards, profitability and actually dropping cash into the business and scaling more efficiently. But there's companies like QuickNode. As everyone's chasing blockchain, you get a lot of people talking about NFTs. You get a lot of people talking about tokens. What QuickNode realizes, in any gold rush, someone has to sell the infrastructure, the picks and shovels. Someone has to provide the plumbing and infrastructure. And so they provide a platform that allows enterprises to build their blockchain projects. And so they provide the nodes and the dApps that you need to write across multiple dozens of different chains. We first met this company about 4 years ago. And at the time, they were, really modest revenue. The company has grown 100x since we invested and now help a lot of large enterprises roll out their blockchain projects across the globe. And so it's examples like that of being able to meet a founder at that first kind of seed and Series A round, as there's the first initial signs of traction, 1, 2, 3 customers, maybe 100,000 of revenue, $500,000 of revenue, and then helping that company grow and scale, ideally grow 80 to 100% year over year. And then you let time do his job, right? You grow 3 years, 5 years, you grow 5 years in a row, 100% a year.
Yeah.
Company goes from 200,000 of revenue to 10 million of revenue. You do that another year or two, you're 50 million of revenue, then you're 100 million of revenue. And so it's really been able to try to predict and model out, can this company sustain 100+% run rate and growth rate? And can they do it for 5 to 7 years? And before you know it, you have companies in the portfolio that are on their way to $50, $100 million revenue.
Do you feel immense pressure being at that point of it, right? We talked about the IPO market shrinking. If we look at pandemic to now, obviously the numbers are drastically different. But that pressure of, we got to get this right? Like, we got to get this right because a first-time founder might not be a second one if they don't get it right. So from your standpoint, right, being in the VC space, how precise and how direct and how exact do you have to be each time when you're investing in a company?
Oh, man. So the gift and curse of venture capital, especially early stage venture capital, so pre-seed, seed, Series A. Let's talk about, there's pre-seed, there's seed, there's Series A, there's growth. And each of those has these different attributes. So for example, typically pre-seed and seed companies, more than half of those fail, right? And they don't make it to their next round of funding. That's just the industry average. We all know that as we sign up for it. Venture capital is very much a power law industry. Your top 20% of companies are going to drive 80% of your returns, right? Which is why there's more variability in returns. If you look at VC as an asset class as compared to like private equity, right? You're entering early, there's still more risk, right? But there's $3 trillion of venture capital deployed across the globe, about $1 trillion of that in the US. There's about $200 billion a year of venture capital that's invested into companies every year in the US, right? And many of those companies will fail. They will return less than one time of the investment. And so you ask, like, well, why do people do this? Well, it's those outliers. It's those 10x, 30x, 100x's that allow, top tier venture capital firms to deliver a 5x, to deliver, 25, 30, 35% IRR across a 10-year fund life. And that is the difference between kind of a great VC and an average VC firm. And so to your question of, are you scared? We build all of these models. When we do an investment, it's fun and easy to talk about it in 20 seconds, but we spend weeks or months studying this company, studying the space, studying the competitive landscape. mapping out the market size, right? How many of those customers exist? How big are they? How many are deployed to the cloud? How many use Kubernetes versus this? We look at all these different financial scenarios. What happens if they don't get traction in Europe? What happens if their gross margin is 40% instead of 60%? What happens if they can't scale through resale? Like, we look at all these financial scenarios and give it all, probability weighted potential outcomes. And then we have to study and look at, what does this company exit on the way out? How's it valued? What's the publicly traded comp set? What's the private market comp set? What are precedent transactions? Does this company trade at a multiple of revenue? Does this company trade at a multiple of gross margin? Or all of those things come into effect. It's like, what is the expected outcome? And then we invest, right? And then from there, we're in the boat with the company. And it's our job to not just provide the capital, but to also provide connections, to provide community, to provide the network to help them succeed, right? And so we have an entire team, for example, and most VC firms have this, a team, like a value creation team that focuses on how do we help this company after we invest, right? How do we help them with hiring? How do we help them introduce them to customers? How do we help them with go-to-market partnerships? And so it's not just the capital, but it's kind of being hands-on to help them build a meaningful business. And so those are some of the components that come into picking the right companies and then being hands-on and working with those companies over the years, which is why, I don't often celebrate the fundraisers. You see a lot of people, they raise, a $5 million or $10 million Series A and they celebrate. Mm-hmm. And there's headlines and somebody's throwing a party and, they're in a club with a sign. And it's like, no. The VC funding, that's just like filling up your gas tank. Right? It's like if you're going on a trip and you stop at the gas station and fill up your tank. It's like, cool, now you have the fuel to go on the journey to go where you need to go. Right? You don't celebrate putting gas in your car. Right? All you did was put gas in your car. Now you have to get somewhere. And so we often give this analogy to founders that, venture funding is like oxygen in a scuba tank, right? Oxygen in a scuba tank, it runs out, right? It doesn't last forever. It runs out. And so you have to use that oxygen wisely to get to the next milestone. You have to either get to profitability or you have to get to the next milestone that will enable your fundraise. If you don't, you run out of oxygen, you die. Mm-hmm. And so kind of getting that clarity early on, I think, is one of the big differences between companies that are successful graduating to the next round and companies that get distracted and they raise that round, they go on a speaking tour, they raise that round, the company doesn't execute and can't get the next fundraise done.
Let's do a thought exercise. Let's say you were a Series A investor in Tesla and you've already exited, but Elon calls you on a Friday night and say, hey, man, I'm having a little bit of trouble with Trump. As an advisor, what would you do to right that company? And can you illustrate some of the points to entrepreneurs watching tonight about how to avoid roadblocks that can derail a company from being successful?
We've helped companies solve a lot of problems, but that might be one of the biggest, most complicated
in the history of commerce, right?
Right. Look, I find that as we're mentoring and working alongside entrepreneurs, they come into some really tough situations, right? You have problems where I've had companies where the software doesn't work, and you're crashing servers at your customer, right? Your customer's losing data because your software doesn't work, and you have the CIO of a Fortune 500 calling you, and they're going to cancel your contract. And so there's a question of the engineers are in the back trying to figure out and debug it. And you're trying to figure out how to save the account, but how to not get kicked out. And so it's like, how much time can you get through? You have situations like that. You have situations where, competitors come in and just undercut you, right? You have an enterprise contract that's, say, $1 million a year. You have a 3-year term, $1 million a year. And, in the second year of the contract, a competitor just wants to win that account and they're willing to give their software away free to take you out. And so you have $1 million contract, they offer it for free. Like, how do you compete with free? And so how do you maintain that relationship, not lose that marquee customer? You have situations where in lawsuits, right? You have patent lawsuits that show up. You have trademark lawsuits that show up. And so there's all of these unknowns that come across. One of my favorite stories, there's a gentleman who invested. Actually, it's funny. We use a gentleman named Scott Weiss. He used to be a partner in Andreessen Horowitz. And when I was in my team, we were working together. We were building Cipher Trust. He was building our arch rival, a company called Ironport. And we used to compete with each other for customers. We used to see each other at trade shows, and we were just really tough competitors. And then fast forward in life, thing is that this is a long career we all have. Logos change, business cards change, but people remain the same. So fast forward 10 years, he's an investor. I'm building Pin Drop. We're raising capital. He ends up investing in our company, right? But this guy's always had a blog that he wrote once that was about cracking the egg with the sledgehammer. And the point of that blog he wrote, the story was, when you have a problem at a company, what you should do is, if it's a critical problem that could be life or death for your company, don't wait and try one solution, see if that works, try another one, see if that works. You don't have time to serialize it. Mm-hmm. You basically need to take all the possible solutions sometimes and go do them at once. And so it's kind of like if you're trying to crack an egg, don't try the spoon first and then the knife. Just go straight to the sledgehammer and solve that thing. And so sometimes you have problems like that. There's such a life or death problem for that company that you have to focus all of your energy on it and kind of use the sledgehammer to crack the egg. And so the one that you mentioned, Tesla and the White House, that's above my pay grade. But
I feel you.
But someone's going to have to use all of the efforts to go solve that. So now it'd be interesting to watch how it all plays out.
So Paul, we talk about VC funding, and we know that there's a problem in our community. I think less than half of 1% of VC capital goes to Black businesses, but just businesses in general, right? You're talking about women, you're talking about so many different businesses, right? It's a lot of people that struggle to get venture capital across all demographics, right? Yep. It's getting harder. It's getting harder to get to get venture capital funding. And you said even just a little bit of money can change the trajectory of a company. Look at Peter Thiel invested in Facebook early, and the rest is history, right? And there's so many stories of somebody wrote $50,000 check and now they're worth $100 million because that company became one of the biggest companies in the world, right? So a lot of entrepreneurs across all walks of life, what they're suffering from is two things. They're suffering from not having enough money, and they're suffering from not having mentorship, guidance, somebody that can actually be in their corner and walk them through. So with that being said, last year we did something that we've never done before. We had a pitch competition at Investfest, and that was something that honestly we just did off the cuff, right? That was our first time actually putting together a pitch competition for on our own. And it was just, kind of like every business, and it was broad range. But as things evolve, you have to bring in the hitters. This is a business lesson, right? So this year we brought the big dog in. So Paul Judge has partnered for this year's Investfest pitch competition, and it's $125,000, right?
That's incredible.
Shark Tank style. Tech companies only tech companies. And this is not just us just writing a check and just saying good luck. Paul's obviously had tremendous successful track record, and exiting companies, and even if they're not exiting, staying private, as he said, turning companies that's making $1 million to $100 million, right, over the course of time. Not easy. It takes a lot of work, but this is something that's been proven. So we just thought that it would be better if you can't be great at everything in life. So we wanted to have somebody that is already seasoned, already great, already in the Hall of Fame. And he already has pitch competitions that he's already done for years. Very successful. So we're bringing it to Investfest. Paul Judge.
I didn't even know this. Is amazing. Wait, what?
Paul Judge, myself, Troy, and 2 Chainz.
Yeah.
Will be the judges, and somebody will win $125,000. Paul, you want to talk about it?
And that is it. That is you nailed it. Is sometimes 1 + 1 equals 3, and so long admired kind of what you all have been doing, right here on Market Mondays and EYL, and what you've been building, my hometown of Atlanta, and through numerous conversations we've had over the years, we've never had a chance to collaborate on something. So this is exciting. Pitch competition. I did the first one that I did was in 2016, and the concept was simple. You mentioned this problem of access to capital, right? Blacks and Latinos, 30% of the U.S. population only receive 3% of venture capital funding. Women, 50% of the U.S. population only receive 2% of venture capital funding. But it's also a geographic problem, right? 80% of venture capital funding goes to 3 states: California, New York, Massachusetts. Those states are 16% of the population. So the rest, the 84% of the rest of the country, they're all fighting for the last 20% of venture capital. So that the capital concentration problem affects everyone. It's a geographic problem, it's a racial problem, it's a gender problem. And so, the saying, talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. Our goal with the pitch competitions is to be that opportunity for the next generation of founders, right? A lot of these companies started with a friends and family round, right? Microsoft, Dell, we've all heard the story of Amazon's friends and family round. And, my friends and family that I grew up with, we're not going to raise $100,000 around the dinner table.
Respectfully.
Right? A dinner table in Baton Rouge, I love it, but there was not $100,000 friends and family round around the dinner table. And so the point of the pitch competition is to be an open door where anyone in the world can apply. And we're going to take a look and actually read and understand what your business does. And, our investment team analyzes each company, and we invite about 20 semifinalists to spend more time. And then 5 finalists will be on stage. And look, I'll tell you, the first one we did, 2016, and the winner of that one was a company. It's a gentleman named Mushir, and he built a company called Kadoxo. It was 2016. He had this idea, and he won the pitch competition. We wrote a $100,000 check into that company, right? A year later, he raised a $1.5 million round. 2 years later, he raised a $7 million Series A. A couple years after that, he raised a $30 million Series B. Right, all started from a $100,000 check. The second year we did it, the winner was a young lady named Sharu. She was 19 years old at the time, if I remember correctly, a sophomore at Georgia Tech, and she had built some software to help people in warehouses be more efficient. And we wrote $100,000 first capital into that company. A couple years later, she raised a $3.5 million seed round. A couple years after that, a $12 million Series A round. That software now runs in some of the largest retailers on earth. A year after that, the next one we did, the winner was Sandeep and Patrick. They were architects, and they had this idea that they could write software to help architects do their job better and like automate things that were taking hundreds of hours. We wrote the first $100,000 check there. They started the company. Fast forward, they raised a $5 million Series A after that. They raised a $30 million Series B after that. Now they're used by thousands of architects around the globe. Those are just the first 3 winners. Mm-hmm. We've done 20 plus of these over the last 9 years. But this one with you all, is going to be the biggest one. Super excited about it. It's going to be the biggest one at Investfest in August. People can apply. The deadline is June 30th. And to your point, they will receive $125,000 investment prize. They'll receive access to our full capabilities of open opportunity funds, that value creation team I mentioned, and so forth. They'll be part of the portfolio alongside the other 75 companies we've invested in. So they'll be in the same portfolio that we've invested in Brex or 8 Sleep or Squire or others. And then also obviously be able to work with you guys and your amazing minds. And so no, really excited about doing this together.
Quick question for you. When you're analyzing a company, for the entrepreneurs that are listening tonight, what are some things like KPIs that you'll see that jumps off of a chart that makes you say, I have to at least take a second look, or I have to invest in this company?
At this stage, it is a little bit of like, what's the problem that you've uncovered that other people have overlooked? Like you have some observation, like you figured out, hey, there's this thing over here and no one else is looking at it. Or there's this huge opportunity over here, no one's else thought about it. And then you've gone from just the idea to like just a little bit of traction. Like you've called a customer and you've built a prototype for them, right? If you call 2 customers and you have an MVP, right? A minimum viable product running in their network, or someone has said at least, hey, if you build this, I would buy it, right? We think about PinDrop. When we started PinDrop, the first thing we had, even before we wrote any software, we went and started pitching customers like, hey, if we built this, would you buy it? And they nodded their head and we said, okay, well, I tell you what, if I write that down on a letter, would you sign it? And we're trying to raise money and prove to people there's demand for this. I just want a letter. And we got a letter from a top 5 bank that says, yep, if you build this, I would buy it and I would probably pay about this much. So that's just proof of demand and customer demand. And so at this stage, that's the bar. We're not looking for necessarily someone that has millions of dollars of revenue or has scaled around. You're looking for kind of that very first early traction around an idea that could potentially be big.
I don't think people realize how big this is. Like to not only get the investment capital, but to get, I mean, it's clear Paul's one of the brightest minds in our country. So to have that for Rashad, the Eco fans at Investfest, listen, if y'all don't apply, please don't email me, don't text me. No, I will not give you Paul's number. Yes, do not miss out.
I think that line is super important, right? Talent is everywhere, but opportunity isn't. And so you can have a concentration of talent in one place and opportunity being in that same place. It makes Investfest, I mean, just unique in itself, just from the pitch competition alone, let alone everything else that's going to be there, man. We appreciate you partnering with us on this. This is going to be a moment.
And let me just give them the rundown
please,
too. So
please do.
It's open till June 30th for submissions. There's 2 requirements. You have to have an Investfest ticket, general admission, whatever, Investfest ticket, and you have to have a company, right? And a company, like you said, doesn't have to be a multi-million-dollar company. It could be in the very beginning phases, right? But it's tech focused, and it could be tech focused in sports and music and business, whatever. But tech focused because we talk about tech so much, so it just makes sense. And this is Paul's specialty. This is Shark Tank style. Paul is going to actually be investing in the company. So it's not like, okay, I'm just going to give you a check. Good luck going your way. No, he's your business partner, right? So it's actually an investment into your company, $125,000. And that comes with, the full range of everything that he's been able to do as far as, help companies really scale. And like Ian said, I think sometimes, you lack some level of understanding. Like this is very rare.
Yeah, like I want to play basketball, but you can win and get coached by Jordan.
like Y Combinator. Like we're bringing like the Y Combinator to your door. Like he said, That's crazy. I didn't even know that 84% of VC goes to Massachusetts, New York, and California.
It's hyper concentrated.
So it's like to have it in Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, that alone, talking about the South, you're talking about, I mean, anybody can apply from anywhere in the country, but obviously it's in Atlanta. So man, I don't know if you're in Morehouse College or if you're working at a job, if you have an idea in a company that is around tech, I have no idea why you would not apply for this pitch.
Yeah. Beats me.
Amen. I agree. And I'll tell you this, when we've done them before, every time there's $100,000 plus check, we're doing $125,000. But no promises, guys. But, when we show up, we tend to bring 2 or 3 of these checks with us. Because there's been,
just in case,
there's been at least 3 times where there's 2 companies that are both so amazing. that we bring out $125,000 check and then we bring out another $125,000 check.
Mm-hmm.
There's been one time that we had 3 checks, $100,000+ each, handed off on stage. And so the limitation isn't capital.
It's the brilliance of the idea.
Respectfully.
Yeah.
The limitation isn't capital.
And I know I said at the top of the show, but it's really important for entrepreneurs to know Paul's a good person.
Yeah.
You can get capital from a bad person or a bad VC and it derails your company. Like Paul's a great person as well. So like, I don't know how much more, what else is needed or wanted. Please, like I said, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
It would behoove you to
Circle
start applying tonight.
Please circle the deadline to when the applications need to be put in. But also go back and watch this episode. Listen to the questions we asked very intentionally about what companies are looking for, what exactly we're looking for when it comes to that pitch competition. Because this is the blueprint was just laid out for you tonight.
Investfest.com. Go to investfest.com, hit the pitch competition link. It's pretty straightforward. Follow the directions. Don't wait until June 30th.
Please don't.
Don't wait till June 30th.
Final question for Paul. For those of us, not me included, who are inspired tonight, and for those who want to have your level of acumen, can you make a simple knowledge roadmap to help because I think we've done a great job at investing, but we don't have the capacity to understand angel or VC. Is there a roadmap that you can recommend tonight in terms of reading or things to look at to help them get up to speed for Investfest?
A roadmap to get up to speed on angel investing
and venture.
Look, I think earlier, I heard you mention Jason Calacanis, and a good friend, great angel investor. He has a book about it. That's one place. There's websites like AngelList where private companies are going to go raise capital, and you could register and get access to deal flow, and you learn a lot by just watching that deal flow. There are tech startup focused publications, whether it be like PitchBook that puts out reports about the industry, or TechCrunch that covers startup news. I think those are some of the things, but it's a great question. You all do such a good job on educating and informing. We might have to put our heads together and think about how to help educate more people around the tech space.
That would be great.
For sure. Well, Paul, thank you, my brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Always a great conversation whenever we talk to Paul. And once again, thank you. And I'll see you in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I'll see you then, man. Great to see you guys. Great to spend time. Happy you guys made it back from Africa as well.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
I understand. We will. All right. Talk to y'all soon.
All right, Bubba.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
Looking forward to it.
Yes. Oh, there you have it.
That was a masterclass.
Amazing conversation.
That was a masterclass.
Mm-hmm.
My gosh.
Brilliant.
What more can be done?
I didn't know that. Y'all didn't hit me in a group text about that. Great idea, though.
We didn't tell you about that?
No, didn't know.
Just a lot of dinners, and we've been knowing Paul for a long time.
He's a good guy.
We always meet over dinner, but just throwing the ideas around. And this one just kind of made too much sense. It was a perfect fit. Yeah. Capital is not the issue. That's
a bar. I'm mad I ain't think of that.
Okay.
Shotty, when you get on them pre-seed, text me, okay?
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's one of these things, like I said, I feel like, last year was a great start to a pitch competition, but we just wanted to refine it a little bit and really get somebody an opportunity to become like the next Facebook Meta.
I think you brought up a great point about being great at something, but not being great at everything. Right. And if we look at, obviously, we evaluate the performance of Investfest the day after. How can we be better? These are some of the points. We're like, we could be better at it. And rather saying, we could probably be better at doing a pitch competition. Let's find out somebody who's been great at it already. And how can we work together? I think that piece of working together is like, all right, this is somebody that looks like us. This is somebody we trust. We already know this guy's established. We have a great relationship. let's see how we can combine. And the real benefit is that the people get to see this in real time, but the people that are going to be up on stage are going to benefit tremendously, and the audience as well. The audience is going to benefit as well, because there'll be plenty of people that are not on stage that are saying, hey, I love that company. How can I be a part of it? How can I invest?
Absolutely.
Everybody wins in that case.
Same with the Magic Johnson story. Every job leads you to your next one. For those who don't even win, there are people in the audience who may have money to invest. So give your all, prepare early. I put it on Twitter this weekend, like 4 to 6 months. I was going through my notes when I started preparing last year. It was 5 months prior to Investfest. Like you can, and even who won in last year, you can see the preparation that they had on stage. So I'm telling you, this year is going to be really, really, really special.
And like you said, the last thing about this is like, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I'm not sure people really fully understand. You know what I mean? Like, it's really difficult to get somebody like of Paul's acumen to take place in Investfest, period. It's hard to get them. And then to get them to actually have a pitch competition, then $125,000, and then tech-focused company, and then he's going to run all of the back-end system. So it's like his company is going to look through every single application. Then they're going to contact people. It's a whole detailed thing. This should not be taken lightly. I'll just say that. All you have to do is have good thermal. All you have to do is have, you heard me?
I just caught that.
That was a good. Yeah. Investfest.
Vintage.
All you gotta do is have an Investfest ticket. So you're talking about $250
for access to one of the brightest minds in the history of America.
What are you talking about?
In tech.
And it's any tech, like he said, you can have an idea. Literally, like he said, he's funded companies with ideas before. Like, all right,
these kind of incubators don't happen in our space, and usually when they do, they cost a hell of a lot more. Like, just to be frank, to get a consult call, if you had a company that was doing like 3 million recurrent revenue, probably cost you like $15,000 to $20,000 if he would take the call.
That's a fact. And we're gonna stop. We're gonna have a large separation between at a certain point in time, the criticism. It's too much. It's too widespread of a gap, and it's too much that's actually been curated here
and done.
It's not. You know what I mean? Like, this has not been done before. So yeah, I advise all entrepreneurs. And every company should be a tech company.
For sure.
By the way, you should have a tech component too.
Absolutely.
So you might think like, oh, I don't got a tech company. Well,
mistake.
You should figure out how your clothing brand can turn into a tech company.
If you don't, there goes your problem. Right? When he said try to figure out what the problem is, how we can make this a scalable business. If you don't have a tech component, that's the number one problem. Straight up. Look at every company that is publicly traded. There's a tech component.
Absolutely.
Man, that was a great conversation, man. Shout out to Paul.
Shout out to Paul, man.
2 Chainz.
That's a hell of an idea. Shout out 2 Chainz.
Shout out to 2 Chainz. 2 Chainz is an investor too.
For sure.
Like, you never know. Somebody in the audience, like you said, somebody in the audience, somebody on stage, some Chainz might just say, you know what, hey,
I'm rocking with that.
You might not have won, but I personally want to, you know what I'm saying? Like, you never know.
And if Paul already did the assessment on the background detail, easy for me to, they shot.
Yeah. They did the homework.
For sure. 8% non-dilutable.
That's all.
That's
good.
Oh,
that's incredible. That made my day. I'm not gonna lie. Because these opportunities, if you've ever been to a Y Combinator or something like that, like, we're not there. Like, even though we cracked the code on investing for our community, it's still not done in angel and VC. That's a whole nother genre that we have not tackled yet. And there's so much money there. Private equity we haven't been able to tackle. So I think this is just the beginning.
And it speaks to maturity too. You know, there was some criticism. I remember a couple years ago when Jeezy performed and somebody had got on stage and they was dancing. And they like, oh, this doesn't represent investment culture and da. Well, hey, give us time to mature, brother. You see us, you gotta understand we're doing this from the ground level. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't have any mentors in this space, so we still gonna have fun, but give us time to mature. In 5 years, we brought you a mini Y Combinator.
And they have Fallout Boy at their conferences. So let's not act like what 3 doors down was there. Like them conferences back in the day, they had entertainment too. Don't do this is the truth.
They have them now. What you mean back in the day? They're doing it now.
Facts.
Shout out to well, you know what? I'll stop.
Yeah, shout to
yes. Okay.
them.
They have it now.
But it's easy to say that opposed to highlight the amazing information that has been given. Just my performance alone. But it's other people there that have brought up amazing conversation and things that you can implement leaving that weekend. That isn't highlighted. But like you said, I think this is going to this is separate.
I was saying, even Y Combinator, I mean, yes, on the premise, but this is different. Like we know people who have gone through Y Combinator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, we're not there. Atlanta,
we're there.
We're here.
Yep.
Like heavily represented. So show up, show out. Be ready.
On the culture.
Please, for the culture.
Everybody's talking about they for the culture. How many people's funding the culture?
Facts.
Funding the culture.
Fund the culture.
Fund the culture.
Fund the culture. Fund the culture.
Yeah,
who's doing that?
Hello.
Talking if it ain't
living it for real. I don't think people knew how brilliant Paul was. First time we talked in line, I said, "Oh, bro, you a cyborg. You different."
Nah, he's one of one.
Solid, bro.
He's one of one. Yep. And you gotta appreciate him because a lot of people like him don't speak. They don't come out. They don't make themselves public, right? And so for him to even come out and speak, I think that is because he wants to help people and he wants people to know. So you gotta appreciate people like that when you get an opportunity to have conversations with them because there's not too many of them.
And he's doing it where he's from. Think about that.
Yeah,
like you never came back. He's doing it where he's from.
Yep, and he's a brother that wants to also help us. He's not one of those people that's like, I want to be the only black in tech. He's never been like that.
Yeah, that even puts more context to the conversation we had with him and Robert Smith at Carnegie Hall. The fact that one of the companies he invested in was bought by Robert Smith's company. Talking about work together.
It is more capital and collaboration. I keep telling you.
Please. Mobsters opt to not get in beef. There's no business in it. It only brings police.
I'm telling you. We are seeing it in real time with Elon. Yes, he's still the richest person on earth. But if Trump gets mad, and JD Vance and even Peter Thiel and Elon are having a little issue. Enemies are not the way to go. Enemies will reduce their equity real quick. Gotta be careful.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was a very insightful conversation.
It definitely was.
Special episode of Market Mondays with a Hall of Fame investor.
Yeah. Jersey and the Raptors for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we need to cover?
Nope.
Oh man, y'all be blessed, man. Y'all be blessed. Keep investing. Tune in to Blackout this Wednesday.
It's a lot to talk about.
A lot to talk about.
I don't want to throw my man under the bus, but man, that's some nasty work.
Lot to talk about. Nasty work is an understatement. Filthy work is an understatement. But a lot to discuss.
And y'all quit saying every situation is different. Some of you should hold your ex down for 8 months while they cheat. Y'all are crazy. That's bad. That's bad financial advice. No,
that is filthy.
Filthy.
No,
filthy work.
That is pretty filthy.
Ladies and gentlemen, tune in to Blackout. Get your tickets to Investfest, investfest.com. Get your vendor booths and apply to the pitch competition.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy.
Go to Investfest website. All you have to do is have a ticket and an idea. Go to the link, fill out the information, and give it all you got, man.
We outside. Summer has officially begun. Summer has officially begun.
Absolutely.
Shout out to New York City. Summer basketball is back. So we back outside, man.
125,000.
That's a lot.
That was more. Last year we did 100. Last year we did 100.
That's a lot.
Increase. And mentorship.
Yeah.
And perpetuity.
To be part of the portfolio.
Told you this is the most important one yet. This is the most important event yet.
That's important.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been real.
And if you're pitching, go look at the portfolio and see what companies your company will have synergy with for when you talk to Paul. Yeah. That's important in that network.
I think he said something very important. I mean, everything he said was important, but one of those key pieces was, are you willing to dedicate your life to this? 10 years down, are you still, is this life work? 15 years, is this life work? Not like, hey, I'm gonna create this business and try to sell it in 2 years. They see right through it. They see right through it. It's got to be life work. So make sure that the purpose is that you're on, right, was destined for you.
This is real financial information, by the way.
It's real.
And here's the thing. Here's the last thing I'll say that I probably shouldn't even say this, but even if you don't get picked, right, what I would do is I would come, Paul included, but I would make a list of 10 people that I want to potentially run into at Investfest, and I will find a way to meet them. That's important. Dan Cathy was in the marketplace with a name tag on. Nobody even knew who he was.
Nobody stopped him.
That's the thing. Like, you, over the course of the weekend, you're gonna run into somebody that could potentially change your life. It could be Ian Dunlap. It could be Paul Judge. It could be 2 Chainz. It could be a variety of different people. I would make a top 10 list.
10 list,
of like, I got a 30-second, real quick pitch, right? Or I got a 30-second value add proposition, how I can help this person, because I've studied them already, and I potentially know that I could potentially add some value. Out of 10 people, all you need is one.
I'm gonna add to that, because that's
VIP night. You're gonna meet people.
You can have that list of 10 people, but those are the faces that you're gonna recognize. I think the people that you should also recognize is the people that are going to be in that room. There's going to be execs. There's going to be execs from Meta. Sure. There will be execs from Google. There will be execs from it. You need to know those people, because you could be sitting next to them. You could be walking past them and have no clue that the opportunity is right in front of you, right? Like, we've been in spaces where I'm being introduced. Like, I should know that person. Matter of fact, let me go study who the team is, right? Who's the marketing team, right? Who's the chief financial officer for a TIAA, right? I need to know these things.
Yeah.
Because I could potentially be in their presence and they can help me in my journey. And so studying the surrounding team is vitally important.
That's so key.
Understand the team.
Yep. Also, too, he told you increase revenue or decrease expenses. If they use 100,000 in will give you 1.5, you need to have your numbers down in terms of return. Not invest in my business. I need 200, projected 2.3 back in 4.5 years. Here's the run rate that I'm on. There's some money in the building.
Yeah, we're gonna study the team, Ian. We gotta figure out how can we get Ian Dunlap.
Have to. Some of y'all be studying hard, trying business only.
Business only.
We studying the team. We've watched Blackout. We know who the team is.
I love your personality. Nope. Bring the investor deck.
Small team.
Yeah, small team. Maybe trying to. I love all y'all. I see. Send the pitch deck.
Love is love. Traveling mercies to everybody out there. We'll see y'all Wednesday. Love is love.